We're live.
Is that what happened?
Hey, everybody, welcome to What Drives Us.
Episode 501, and here we are on the 24th of May.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to What Drives Us. And as you may have guessed, Russell left the kids alone again.
The ignition.
No supervisor. Yay! We're going to do whatever we want. Dance music. I am your host, Georgia McKenzie, and here with my lovely co-host, Casey Green from CaseyGreen.com.
Chat is not integrated in our stream today. We have chat, and I can see it. And if the others want to load up YouTube in another window, they can see it too. Otherwise, I'll relay your comments along.
Okie dokie.
I hope you're all having a good one.
And also the lovely and talented Mark Coughlin over there in Canada.
Hello. Welcome, everyone.
He says hi, everyone.
Hey. So we have a very slim and trim group today, but we do have a lot of stories to talk about. So let's roll on into it. And first up, we are going to go with Casey. Casey, let's talk a little bit.
Are we going to do my rant, or are we going to do the cool stuff I found?
We are going to get your rant out of the way. Let's work out that toxin.
All right. So our friend, the Emperor King, was doing an interview with CNBC, and it was going musky, just the way he does. Talks about things, comments on stuff. He said he wasn't going to censor himself, blah, blah, blah. And then he got onto the subject of work from home, which we know he doesn't believe in for his employees. He took things a little too far. Let's just share you guys the headline. I'm not actually going to play any clips of this interview, but let's just say they were accurate. Musk says working from home is morally wrong when service workers still have to show up, which is bogus. For one thing, somebody suggested that perhaps he's trying to sell more cars, because if you have to drive to work, you're going to have to buy something. And, well, people will still buy the car if they don't go into the office. And look at all of the waste that happens at going into the office for folks who don't need it. You end up with folks jammed in the bullpens because it's the cheapest, and it's not the best way to get the most productivity out of most people because they get distracted. They've got folks on the other end of the cubicle with speakerphone, or worse, you don't even have cubicles. You can just be an open pit. And then you're wasting all the energy with the air conditioning and the extra toilets, blah, blah, blah. Yes, if you want to go, that's fine. If you need to go for the reasons that he states, like, oh, it's not fair for the guy who works on the grass. Well, you know what? I'm not working outside in the grass with my laptop at the office when the guy is cutting the grass in 100-degree weather. No, because that's not the job. The job is for me to continue working on the computer to do all of that stuff. So the solidarity, yeah, I do appreciate that he's out there in the heat, but that doesn't, me being in the office doesn't change anything for him. Yeah, I can smile at him in the hallway, but does he care? He's there to cut the grass.
Well, let me just analyze this, both from the message and the bearer of the message. Now let's take a look at the message.
Real quick. What annoyed me most about this, like I said, I know he doesn't believe in it for his people, but what annoyed me most about this is he knows the amount of bad managers that look up to him if we're going to try and copy this wholesale. Like it's already bad enough that he's doing it, but even worse when you get a first to third generation copy of it without any critical thinking.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We're going to do two things. So the idea that it's morally wrong because service workers show up to work in person every day too. Well, that's nonsense. There is nothing wrong with you working from home and a service worker being in person. That's just the nature of your job is more flexible than that person's job. But where those service workers actually could work from home, a lot of them did. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing. So I've talked with customer service reps on the phone, and they were in their house perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. So it's not an issue. Secondly, let's examine the messenger. I don't know about you, but my productivity hanging around getting into discussions with Cat Turd and various other right wing figures on the Twitters most of the day does not count as productivity. And now I'm also going to take issue with CNBC, which includes the line, let's see. As productivity apparently slackened and investor expectations grew, many executives at companies, including Amazon and Salesforce, have demanded workers begin to return to offices. Hold up a minute, Sunshine. Please present your proof that productivity slackened and expectations grew. Now, the expectations growing, I can get. That is true.
All that.
But expectations grow even when you meet the past year's expectations, because we are a very stupid species and we have the chief stupidness running the businesses with the idea that there is constantly going to be growth. We have a business mindset that there is always a percentage of growth and there's a target percentage you must reach. Why? Because we naturally expand. Really? We're gases? Is that what we are? We just expand until, there's a point past expansion where you finally just disperse and you're not actually that original gas. And I am always appalled at the idea in business that we just naturally expand all the time and it's just perfectly all right. That's bull. We actually had huge productivity, and you should know because Amazon had record profits throughout COVID. Record. They didn't suffer a bit. What this is the investment in both real estate, which many of these large companies owned the buildings. That was a choice. They bought these buildings and they have these buildings sitting there empty. And
or 10-year lease.
What can they do with them? Well, if you're not housing your workers and you can't sublease them out, force the workers to come back to make at least be able to write this off. Secondly, the other aspect of it is, what do middle managers do? Now, I've been both below the line and middle manager, and I know exactly where my work slipped from management to actual production. And the good portion of my work that I had to do that required me to be leaning over my underlings' necks at some points and over their shoulders, maybe 10% of the job. This could have been an email. This can be a text. I did not need to unless necessary. It's just because they're there, physically present. Okay, walk over to the desk. Hey, how's it going? All right, this is a problem, or this is where we're going. Okay, let me inform you with some new information. We're done here. Back to my desk where I have a ton load of work to do because I'm actually doing the work that most managers don't have to do. I've always worked in offices and companies that don't have the money for managers to just manage.
Right. And it's a different skill set. I mean, just because you do it that way in person doesn't necessarily make you a bad manager. But because you can't do it remotely doesn't make you a bad manager. The fact that you won't be flexible
there's an
and learn.
investment, and that layer of management, that is a whole class of people for whom they need to show, why do you exist?
Yeah, so they don't get cut. And
if they can't show why they exist, for a lot of bosses, that how they view managers is honestly a level of overseer, not actually managing the job and doing the job at the same time. They see it more as both paperwork and oversight and just constantly managing the people. People management is really overseeing people. And I do mean in the term of overseeing, because the view is without a manager around, you're just not going to work. Well, that's not true. And I will say most bosses are gadding about doing boss stuff. And whether that boss stuff is lunching with a bunch of other executives, make meet and greets, pressing the flesh, it's work, but is it really the demanding in the office stuff that they like to present it as? No, you may not like these people, but you are certainly not working, slaving away hard as you sit there and, laugh up about something and try to steer the conversation towards your whatever it is you're selling. Um, Tons of bosses work flexible hours. They can work at 8 o'clock at night, looking over facts and figures, reviewing something, and move back on, and then go to bed. They get up at 5 a.m. Hey, let me run on the treadmill and review a report. They go to breakfast, have a meeting, run around, they have appointments, come back into the lunch. What happened over the course of the 4 hours I was not here? And then they go on back out. So, really, is it necessary to be in the office? Is it a moral failing? Is there a laptop class? No. Is Elon Musk a twink? No, he's not. The Twinkies are too cute and fluffy and full of cream and actually delicious. Possibly able to save your life if you're caught out in an apocalypse. So he's not a Twinkie. But he is irrelevant to anything discussing morality. I could talk about the man's behavior for days, but he is not relevant to anybody's moral structure. He has nothing to say about morality, and treating him as if he is a very serious executive. And I know this might go counter to.
We emailed Twitter for comment and we received a poop emoji.
Well, yeah, when to me, it's like treating this man as if he has anything relevant to say about a successful business really ignores that businesses he owns are far more successfully run and managed when he is out somewhere, smoking pot and, pontificating about the nature of the universe with somebody with, a Pepe avatar on Twitter. Please leave us alone. And if you have to ask him anything, maybe ask him about self-driving cars. Let's hear him talk about programming so programmers can have a good laugh. But stop bothering us with whatever Elon Musk thinks, because Elon Musk and thinking are actually two things that go together and then drive right past each other and never wind up in the same spot whatsoever. Don't bother me with Elon Musk's thoughts, because I don't have time for small penny ante bullshit. And that's all that ever comes out of his mouth. So there.
Bruce brings up a good point, and it kind of goes into where he was talking about, not he, Bruce, but Musk was talking about, like, well, what about the people who have to work in your home to bring you the food and work on your air conditioner? They can't work from the office either. They can't work from home and they can't work from the office.
They don't do that in the office.
The nature of the job. Yeah.
Those same people do the same thing whether you're in the office or whether you're at home.
Right. Except that now you don't have to take off. Okay. Now you don't have to take off work to meet the AC guy because you're already.
All I'm
home.
going to say is, let me know when Elon Musk is out there advocating for essential workers like these to have a minimum wage of $20 per hour, depending on your municipal cost of living, and health benefits and worker protection. When Elon Musk is out there with Fight for 15 on a sign and on a t-shirt, and every single Tesla worker is protected with a union, then maybe I'll think Elon Musk gives a damn about essential workers. I will also think Elon Musk has been taken over either by spirits or space aliens.
Yes.
But
he's been visited by 3 ghosts in the night.
It's for the best. I think the 3 ghosts would just give up and take over the body. I think that's what we've got here. But no,
I think you can listen to Elon on many things, but morality is not one of the things you should be listening to Elon about. That's right. The guy, obviously he knows how to start a business, and obviously he knows how to raise money, and obviously he knows how to build hype. All those things he's really good at, but talking about morality, not so much.
It's
right.
like,
and just because he's good at one thing doesn't mean he's good at everything.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing.
To me, it's like, dude, your dad raised your sister and then started dating her and got her knocked up twice. Please be silent regarding morality. Thank you.
Yeah. So Bruce's comment that I was highlighting there was some jobs require being away from home to do. I could not have done my work with the Kuwaiti EPA during fires from my home in Arizona. I have many other similar examples. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
But
you're
you could
not in an
also
office, are
couldn't
you?
have that in the office, exactly.
You're not tied to a location. You actually have to be. That is literally the point of remote work.
Yeah. Neeson says, I've worked from home since 2010. Imagine how many miles and hours of commuting I've saved. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're talking easily in many metros, 40 minutes a day times two, plus like 10 to 20 miles or more each way. And like I said at the beginning of this, you would still probably buy a car because, like, after work, what are you going to do? You're going to go out with your family, right? So if it was just a matter of him thinking that people aren't going to buy his cars, then that was misguided. But he does a lot of stuff from the hip and misguided.
Yeah, I really don't think he thought that much about it. I really feel like Elon just had a thought. They asked him. He gets a point in his head. I remember I've seen him with the whole Irish for slaves thing, and it's like
Oh man, I
nobody.
hadn't
I'm
seen
not.
that, but I like the
Yeah,
topic.
I
I've seen other
just like
people with it.
I'm just gonna. He's one of those people that if somebody manages to bring his tweets into my TL, you just look at it and you say bless your heart and you move on. Because somewhere out there is a cat pic and it's got my name on it. There's like a cute cat doing something. I'd rather look at that. Much
There you
better.
go.
See, cats.
Yeah.
All right,
But
we're gonna.
the reason I brought it up for here was the environmental aspects and see what other people thought, because we're not the only people who always or sometimes work from not at the office. So,
I'll tell you the truth. Some people work better in an office.
and some people do, yeah, and
Some people
they
are
choose that.
just
That's fine.
better, and I think it's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
I think a flexible workforce is better for workers, and honestly, I think it creates a more agile company, because what happens when people are sick, they can't come into work, or they don't have to be so ill they can't work, but if they're able to make it work at home, then you're able to allow them to earn their money, maintain their job, maintain continuity in projects. A flexible work environment is good for companies. Obviously, the economy didn't crash. These people did not. Nobody suddenly stopped being a billionaire and was only a millionaire.
Right. And
So
then you've also got the resiliency against either local or regional disasters. Assuming that it's not taking out all the power and all the internet, you're more flexible. And if you are dispersed amongst the continent, you're even more resilient against that.
it's a lot more nuanced than just anybody's one take.
Yeah.
But wrapping up on this, we're going to move on. And we are going to go to Mark. Mark's got a story for us.
Yeah, I got a story about Ford. Ford, of course, is trying to, like all EV makers, source raw materials for their batteries. They are having an issue in getting battery supply chain to be North American or within countries that have free trade with America, because, of course, the Biden administration's rebate is only good for vehicles that are produced in free trade countries with the United States, and batteries are produced and sourced from those same countries. So Ford, of course, has been looking for other partners to get these raw materials from, and some of the refining. And recently, a Quebec company has signed a deal. This company is called Nemaska, and Nemaska Lithium has signed a deal with Ford for 11 years, where Ford will be purchasing up to 13,000 tons of lithium hydroxide produced by Nemaska in Quebec, about 150 miles northeast of Montreal. And actually, Nemaska has done this because they're starting up a new processing plant, because they've been watching the news as well. They know that they've got mines up in the James Bay area where they can get the lithium ore, ship it down to their processing plant for refinement, and for easier sale to EV makers. And Ford has picked up on this, and they will begin purchasing this refinement from the factory in about 2025. Then it will be shipped down to the Michigan area, where Ford has, of course, is producing a number of the new EVs at the Blue Oval, or the Rouge plant is where a lot of the electrics are going to be made for Ford. So again, all these different North American manufacturers of electric vehicles are all out looking for different, trying to source different parts, as well as in this case, looking for specific components to add to batteries. And Canada has a lot of this available in different mines located through Ontario and Quebec. And here's another story of them sourcing it, the company producing it, and Ford buying, in this case, 13,000 tons of it per year. So congratulations, Ford, for getting some of that supply chain shored up. And as others move to EVs and more EVs are produced, this is just going to become more and more important, because, of course, the Biden administration's tax credit is good for 10 years. And you don't want to be left out of sales for that long. You're going to try to shore up your supply lines to make sure they comply with the tax credit. And this is another example of that happening in real time.
Yeah, because not complying puts you in a really disadvantaged spot as a competitor. You either have to eat those or come up with a drastically cheaper product. Or
it drops you out of a $7,500 price tag, immediately. Of course, that's going to be very tough to compare it to another vehicle of similar size and weight from another manufacturer. One is $7,500 less. Because of the tax credit, you
notice that amount
typically
of money.
Guess who's going to buy what. It's certainly something that all these manufacturers are scrambling and trying to match or become in compliance with those supply chain rules.
So right now, Ford doesn't actually make their own cells. So are they buying this to take to their other supplier, or are they getting into the battery maker business?
It could be either or. This is going to be in 2025. So, that's over a year away. Ford could have plans that will be maybe starting to produce their own, or of course, they do have those deals already with other battery manufacturers. And some of them are native to Michigan as well. So it could go either way.
We'd love to give you 100,000 cars worth of batteries, but we just can't get the material. Oh, here you go. Oh, okay.
That's basically true.
Yeah.
There's also a lot more than just having the access to this supply of lithium that's within North America. There is the cleanliness of this supply. So they're using hydroelectricity. They use 12 times less water and emit 70% less greenhouse gas than other places around the world. Now, I said no dollar value is provided for the deal, but I believe those factors are beyond any dollar value, because doing things in a way that's cleaner and better is what this is all about. So it's a very good deal.
Yeah. Especially all people if you switch from gas to batteries, you're still mining stuff. Yes, you're mining it once. You're mining it a lot cleaner, and you're mining less of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the points that Georgia brought up, is that Quebec is very hydroelectricity intensive. A lot of their industry is run basically off the benefit of having hydroelectric available to them. And of course, that's a renewable resource. Obviously it's from dams and such that produces electricity is generated. But Quebec is one of the largest producers of hydroelectricity in the world. And they have an abundance of that resource. And that's part of the reason why Quebec is one of the leaders in Canada when it comes to electric vehicles, because they've got this abundance of this resource that could be put into people's tanks overnight in their driveway. And people can drive on it the next day. So it's another example of why hydroelectricity has actually curved a market into acting a certain way, as it has in Quebec.
Yep, I like it. And so let's move on to some other. I guess this is good news. Guess what, guys? We did it. Renewables supplied 65% of new U.S. utility scale generating capacity in the first quarter of 2023. Not
That's
bad.
pretty good.
It's very good. Let's see. So what? Now, first of all, let's break down what that actually means, because it sounds good on the surface, but what the heck does that really mean? Renewables, solar capacity in particular, was 39.56% of the total of our energy generation. And that doesn't include the small scale stuff. So that's 2,530 megawatts. Not bad. We have new wind capacity that provided 1,475 megawatts, or 23.06% of the total. So that's our new utility scale generating capacity. That means that we were able, when we generated energy, we provided almost 2/3 of it as renewables. And that means that we are moving in the right direction. It's not necessarily doing great because we still used 2,259 megawatts of gas and 2 megawatts of oil. And we didn't have any additional capacity additions for coal, nuclear power, geothermal, but that's okay. We like that. We like not getting more of those. Renewable energy now accounts for 27.67% of total installed utility scale generating capacity. That's 11.51% from wind, 6.67% from solar. And it's growing at a much faster rate than the federal, well, I can't remember the whole thing, FERC recommended. So that means that we're doing better in generating energy. We're doing better in making sure it's renewable energy. So I think it's time to do that whole pat on the back. Good job, America. Nice work. So FERC is forecasting that we have high probability of getting up to 77,000 megawatts of new solar capacity, not to mention an increase in wind and hydropower and geothermal. So we're hoping that we also get the drop that they perceive in coal, which would be 28,000 megawatts, oil by 1,572 megawatts, and natural gas at 574 megawatts. Nuclear power, 123. So if those go down, we like that going down. We like anything that requires a hazmat crew to clean up to be dropping down in how much we use, how much effort we put into having of it. So I thought that we could kind of celebrate. That's not a bad idea.
Who would have imagined that if you get the price of renewables down to below the other options, that people would choose renewables to build? It's shocking, really, that
You have to buy fuel.
not only is the
Sign me up.
right thing to do, but it's the cheaper option. So yeah, this trend's probably just going to accelerate wildly because when you start weighing projects and looking at them dollar for dollar, renewables seem to be coming to the top of the list of all of them. So it's quite an easy choice to make when it makes financial sense as well as it's the right thing to do.
Truer words were never spoken. There's nothing to add on to that. And we've got even more stuff to think about, like how do we build onto this? Because they're actually anticipating that they're going to keep outstripping the FERC recommendation, well, the FERC projections on these renewables. We've been adding nearly 5 percentage points to their share of the nation's electrical generating power. It can continue or even can be accelerated. So we're hoping that renewables will be providing more than a third of total installed generating capacity within the next 3 years, and it could exceed that. But what can we do right now? Well, I tied in on a grid upgrade. Hello, you know, I was talking before the show started about something I want to do for the house that I'm in, because my new house, for once, it's older than me. And this old girl is going to be hitting about 100 in another year or so. Not me. The house.
You just turned 10. 10th of the age.
I just wanted to make sure everybody here said, no, this is not a remarkably well preserved 100. This is not, definitely not 100. But the house will be hitting 100, and but it needs a few upgrades when it comes to electrical to get that solar happening in the back that I want. And you know what we need to do right here, right now in the US? Because we're doing so awesome, adding more renewable electrical generating power. What can we do to really capitalize on it? Fix our grid. Hello. We need to have new upgrades. We've got to fix it, and also upgrade it so it works more efficiently, so we can get more wind and solar projects online faster. So what's taking so long? Well, most of the infrastructure to get electrical generation point A to deliver to point B and then disseminate that out to houses and businesses, which would be the C, built between 40 to 80 years ago. I was built 40 years ago at least, and I'm not functioning quite as well as when I started either. So if I need an upgrade, pretty sure that the grid could stand a little assistance in that. And definitely when you're talking 80, we all need a little help there. So why not renew it? We need to fix the actual lines. We need to fix any kind of swaying in the poles, or to deal with ambient temperatures. And a terrible thing, but something some of us in California who know the history of PG&E, we know this fact. Utilities don't currently monitor their power lines for conditions that affect carrying capacity. In fact, 99% of power lines are not monitored at all. That is a problem, which means that the utilities are always taking a guess as to how much power the transmission lines can handle and making worst case scenario assumptions. But we don't know. And that is making sure that renewable energy projects have a very long wait to connect to the grid. So what do we do now? Well, 2021, new president, new you. There we go. FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, ruled unanimously to pass Order 881, which requires transmission providers to use a more accurate transmission line rating method called ambient adjusted ratings. When it's fully implemented, of course, like everything, we talked about, legislating AI. It takes a bit of a while. But once it's fully implemented, AAR should help increase the capacity of aging power lines, minimize the issue of wind and solar generation being slowed down and integrating to the grid. But while it's a great start, it's just one small increment, and it's up to 3 years away for it to really be fully implemented. It's just not enough. We do need more power lines. We need about 47,000 miles of power lines to meet the demand of energy transition. And that's according to the U.S. Department of Energy. That's not going to happen in time to meet climate goals. It's expensive. I can tell you, as a person who used to man planning in city council meetings, it takes, you face a lot of opposition. People don't want exposed power lines, and then they don't want to have the dug power lines. So what do they want it to be? Like Tesla, maybe we transmitted through the air, but we didn't follow through on that kind of power generation.
Ran him out of town like a witch.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't. So we got to send it some way, somehow, but that's going to be a lot of meetings. But we're hoping that we can get FERC to act and implement the dynamic line ratings. Dynamic line ratings give utilities the power to do real-time data with advanced sensors that provide real-time field conditions that affect transmission capacity. And with this information, hopefully, probably going to take some regulatory action. We'll go above and beyond the limits of guesstimates to maximize the grid capacity, get wind and solar projects online, and unlock what they say is a 2 terawatt interconnection queue. There are some utilities using DLRs right now. National Grid just installed the largest DLR project in the US in upstate New York. And some of the largest utilities in the world are using it. Xcel Energy, Dominion Energy, Avangrid, Tennessee Valley Authority, many others. But with all the efforts and money that the Inflation Reduction Act has put into the mix to get more wind and solar projects online and get that capacity online, it's just not fast enough. We got to speed it up much, much faster. So there is a lot of rules and everything else happening there. And but it's something that we can do when we make our choices at the booth, or if we want to make our voices heard when it comes to power lines. Pay attention to your local municipalities, because I have watched a ton of meetings happen, and it's always the people who are opposed who are just there, bless their hearts, like they have nowhere else to be every meeting, each meeting, until they usually get their way because they are the loudest voices. So if you think that modernized grid is a good idea, pay attention to your local meetings. You can actually set a Google alert for the topic and get Google trending news on this kind of stuff. Just read your local paper too. Good reason to get your local paper subscription. It's usually not that expensive. But I figured, why not talk about some ways we can not just pat ourselves on the back for doing good, but focus on how we make that good maximize for us later. So what do you guys think?
Well, all of the new is good, but also we could do some maintenance and basic repairs, scheduled maintenance. When you talked about parts of the grid being 40 to 80 or plus years old, some of the consumable wearable items are still that old, even though they should have been replaced decades ago. We're talking like in California, particularly, some of the hangers that hold the lines up, they should have been replaced about 20 to 30 years ago. When you look at Texas, they cut so many corners that they were having trouble with heat and cold. I understand optimizing for one, but you can't not optimize for either. You're a state that gets hot, you're a state that gets cold. You can't just assume it's going to be golden.
Always remember, Texas and Florida are like the Wish location, the Wish.com versions of functioning governments.
True.
Actually, I have one question. Mark, you live in a magical land called Canada.
Yeah.
Do you have this kind of problem up there? I mean, I know there's always a problem. Damn it, Mark! With your paradise and your sensible adult governments.
We pay more for it because there are regulations in place that require public utilities to follow certain guidelines for their infrastructure. And projects have to be done within certain timelines laid out for the public utility in different areas of the country. And of course, since we are in a cold and hot country, those regulations are different for every region based on the type of weather that occurs in those regions. But yes, we definitely pay more for it because the public utility has to actually make the changes within certain time frames in order to continue their license of operation. So they are required, they are checked in, and of course there are things that still break We still have issues that happen. That's not a surprise. Everybody has that, but at least they're trying to get them into a range of that it operates at regular efficiency, and there are projects laid out. And of course, some public utilities will say, well, we can never catch up. We have to pick and choose the projects, but that's going to happen in any scenario. So
Yeah.
but it's not like Texas, where Texas or Florida, where we just wish that things will happen and things will be good for the next decade and we don't have to spend any money.
We just pray to God, right?
Yeah.
God will hold our utilities together. And over in Canada, they have magical unicorns that they all ride because it's a fantasy land where people function like sensible adults, and they have poutine. All right.
And Bruce points out in the chat that many of these regs were found out and what do we call them? The blood regs, or written in blood, because they were done in the cost of casualties, either lives lost or serious injuries.
Yeah, it's a very peculiar thing to live in a country where, honest to God, we don't really see a reason to change or fix something unless we have had enough people die. And that's the truth. It can't even just be people are harmed a little bit by something. Oh, we should probably fix that. It's literally, let's see how much body count and how many people and how far up the class chain, because we have a huge class set here in America. This flat classless society has so many layers of class, and it has to affect the right classes in tremendously catastrophic ways for us to say we should probably fix that. Yeah. So, but we're sticking to the positives. We have the potential. We showed we can do something, and we're moving forward and thinking of moving forward. Casey, let's talk a little bit about this pergola, because I personally am intrigued.
Yeah. So our friends over at Arca Energy, they have unveiled and are getting ready to launch a new solar pergola. It looks like this, and you can get it shipped to your home and get your contractors to put it up. I imagine you could probably also do it yourself, but where that's legal, and it's up to 4.3 kilowatts of generating capacity, and you can hook multiple of these units up together if you need to. And you go from 180 square feet to 312 square feet, and a minimum of 2.4 kilowatts peak to 4.3. And I tried to get a price, and it was one of them call for more information. Actually, you give them your information, and they'll contact you. You get a 25-year warranty, just like every other solar panel, but I don't know about any other pergolas. And like most other panels, it's got hurricane wind rating of 120 miles per hour. The ones in my house, I think, are rated to 140 miles per hour, maybe 160. But beyond that, in either case, it's a matter of home insurance at that point. But that, even willing to take a rating like that is also unique to these kinds of structures. And you can also take 30 pounds per square foot of snow load, which is nice because now you don't have to worry about it in any season. Just put it out there, keep them clean, and you're good to go. And it looks like this.
And it's great that they're a little bit lower to the ground too, that you would have the ability to clear snow off of them or dirt off of them, whereas with a house, you just don't have that option. You're just hoping for the rain to help you out, or the warm weather to allow them to clear up.
Well, it's one of those. I mean,
I like the styling.
It's got a very nice, clean styling. I have to admit, the inability to get a price means it sounds like if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
I don't think it was necessarily that's what they were going for. I think that they just have a more traditional salesman with the feet on the ground situation where rather than dealers, they're going to knock on doors and ring phones. And so in order to feed those leads, you're one of the leads once you put that in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. I mean, frankly, if you're going to put up a gazebo or a pergola or anything else like that, why not?
It looks like it passed a lot of these HOA ultra tight regulations because it's sleek and black. It matches a lot of home styles without having to be redesigned for every neighborhood.
Yeah. And also, if you have a roof that putting panels up on would be difficult, like I do live in an older house, and some of those roofs are a little too peaked. And, means that you're really limited on what you can put on it and how much you can put on it. But if you have the yard space, you can put up this gazebo and have a very nice solar powered option going that you can connect to your house. And that's pretty darned intriguing. So,
Yeah, and also if your backyard is sunny or south facing, this is a benefit for shade anyways. You don't always want to have full sun in your backyard. Having a permanent shady spot is a benefit to any homeowner.
That's right. Not to mention, if you like me also like to garden and want to be able to entertain, hey, you can't really put a solar array out there and have those, but you can put up this gazebo or a pergola, something in that vein. And it's not the only one that exists on the market, but it's always nice to have options.
Right. And different styles and different price points, and competition helps keep them in check as far as the pricing. I think this would look great on my back porch.
Nice. Yeah, I'm thinking about the same thing myself. Somebody give me money for a back porch. All right. We are going to touch very briefly. Oh boy. Guess what's coming, people? Except for you, Mark, because again, you live in a magical land. It is almost election season.
Yes, it is.
Oh dear. Well, and as such, things are happening. But this one is a particular one that should be of interest to us here who are focused on things like EVs and sustainability. And sometimes we kind of step over this consideration as we modernize. The UAW is playing some hardball with the Biden administration regarding electric cars. And why? Why are you saying, are they playing hardball? Well, they are withholding an endorsement because they want some guarantees about jobs and benefits, etc., etc., etc.
I interject before we continue.
Sure.
Given everything they've seen him do, what makes them think he's not playing ball? I mean, we've got the new IRA that requires the batteries come from America or friendlies.
It's more than that. It really is more than that.
Okay,
all right.
Okay.
And full disclosure, I am represented by a union. I also work for unions. And I'm represented by a union, honestly, in several fields that I'm in, because that's just how the ball bounces. I'm a union girl person. So here we are. Why are they playing hardball? Well, they're withholding an early endorsement because they're concerned about climate regulations that stipulate 2/3 of all new passenger cars must be all electric. Why is that? Because all electric cars have fewer parts than gas-powered cars, and producing them requires fewer than half the number of workers needed to turn out gas guzzlers. That's it. Now,
go ahead.
It's a job protection thing, and the thing is that this is not new, and it may not even be completely unexpected. I'm also, full disclosure, represented by UAW. This is actually my parent union, although many people don't understand that UAW does not just cover auto workers. I do communications. Why am I covered by auto workers? Because they cover communication workers too in certain fields. So because I do communications and I am a member of their union, they cover me. And they're dead certain they're not going to be endorsing anybody else, but they are making sure that they put in a fight to make sure that job protection is part of whatever Biden's plan is coming in, because they know that they can't save every job. Second.
What if you
But
just make more cars so that you still need all the same number of people?
that's the thing is, though, that they're not all trained on that. And who's going to
Yeah.
pick up the cost for the training? Is that going to be on the worker? Is it going to be on to the
And the worker.
employer? And most times where it comes to training, I mean, I've had a lot of things where I foot the bill for my own training.
Same.
And
Expensive stuff. Very
and
expensive.
I've been responsible, and that was training I did specific for my job, that they know it was for my job, that I said this needs, but I could not get an agreement from the job because I was either unrepresented or I was part of an association which doesn't have the same teeth and it doesn't have the same power as a union. So basically, I got
as non-union. I got that
absolutely
all the time.
useless.
Oh, we need to spend $2,000 on training by next week. What?
Yeah. So it's and the main reason why I wanted people to know about the story and to see, because this is going to be starting up, and when you see it, partially what you're going to see is a very long, hot union action summer. DGA is probably going to go on strike because that's the Directors Guild of America. They're probably going to be joining the Writers Guild of America that is already on strike. They're on their third week of strikes. There are 22 days so far they have been on strike. And SAG-AFTRA will more than likely be voting and approving a strike. Like, I'm literally getting off here doing an audition for something that if we go on strike, I will have to decline to actually do the job because I will honor the strike. Why are we doing this? All of this is technology. All of everything happening right now in entertainment that's going to affect what you see on the TV, any new programs, most seasons, is all about AI and the ways how businesses are attempting to use the AI that is honestly in its very nascent stage and is not really meant for the ways that they want to use it. And we have much more development with EVs, but it's still the same issue. How do unions protect the jobs and the work experience of their members in this organization? Well, this is going to happen, and I'm not concerned about it. They know who their allies are and they know who their enemies are, but it's people might think that it's not kosher, and it's no. The thing is that it's natural. It's what we're supposed to do. But I'm going to roll this back over to Casey because I know you had some comments and thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they're doing, but I think that there are some ways that we can make sure that everybody's taken care of without necessarily, and like you said, it's kind of a foregone conclusion, but they want to make sure they've got assurances, but without even threatening going another way on this.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
one thing you mentioned, like you said, is making sure that the workers won't have to pay for retraining on these things. Like, yeah, you're a engine block caster. All right, well, now you can cast some electric motor housings, but like you said, you might have to use some new techniques at the different temperatures. For instance, maybe 100 degrees C instead of 150, 200 degrees C. But it's kind of the same situation we're in with the coal miners. Like, it's time to move on, and how to best do this without putting people in the street. You don't want people's families to go hungry, but
that's why these unions have to put their concerns on the table, right?
Yeah.
Like they're fighting for their membership. They're fighting for the people that pay the union dues. If they've got valid concerns, they need to put those on the table because they see a problem coming, and it'd be irresponsible for them to do nothing about it.
Yep.
It's something that you have to do. Now, how hard you fight for things and how much of a tantrum you put up, those are debatable. But seeing problems that are coming and making everyone aware that these things are coming is part of their job description as a union.
I guess part of it just rubs me the wrong way is the framing. Like, hey, you're not going to buy any more ICE cars, so we got a problem. Like, well, how about, hey, in this new, this new future where we're not making ICE cars, what are we going to do with these people who are specialized in mining for coal and making piston rod connectors? We need to take care of them, make sure that they're not going hungry 3 years before retirement.
I will say that is probably because this was not put out by the union. This is written by
news people,
a writer at the American Prospect.
Okay.
And
that's a little more fair.
Let's always remember that the goal of a writer is to get you to read their article. When you understand that goal has nothing to do with informing you, like that is, it's like when the courts decided that the police have no duty to protect you, and it's true. There's no. That's a court.
That's
a court decision.
Lie. It's marketing.
Yeah, it's police have no public duty to protect citizens at all. They just have a job. There is nothing that they have to do. Same thing with a writer in any kind of a news magazine or a newspaper or anywhere else. They have no duty to inform you. They don't have to write factually. They have to write compellingly, and that's different. So I can tell you that the sky is blue due to the refraction of light through the atmosphere, and that's why you perceive it as blue. Or I can tell you that the sky is blue because God said it, or it's because it's the most beautiful color on the planet. I have no proofs that those are correct, but those phrases will compel you more than the facts will. And so let's cut them a little slack on that. But I'd say that we started off the show with the rant-worthy look at Elon Musk saying it was a moral imperative. He could say what he wants very harshly, and we don't look at them and say, "Well, I don't think that's fair." But so I'm not bothered by the unions playing hardball with Biden, and as far as I'm concerned, he can handle himself. He may be old, but the thing is that I want them to play hardball. And I'm not saying that because I'm a member. I'm saying that because I want unions to play just as hard, just as tough as any CEO does. Because CEOs berate and malign their own workers constantly. And they malign other workers. And they act like we, the workers that make the things that make them CEO, are somehow flawed. No, we're about as flawed as you are, son.
They want 2 days off a week? That's immoral.
It's kind of, you want to work from home. You want to have sick leave.
You want pregnancy leave?
We had the same discussions, and we're having them again.
The 2 day weekend is because of unions.
So, but be prepared for more of this because as we improve our EVs, as we improve our sustainability efforts, we're gonna see a lot of unions and a lot of people saying we can't all be service workers. And it's true, we can't. We can't all be service workers. And we have to protect the jobs that we have currently. We have to protect the industries, and we got to make sure that what comes out at the end is beneficial to maintain a strong middle and working class layer of society. So with that, let's wrap it up. It's almost 7 o'clock.
I wanted to point out some comments real quick from
Sure.
We've got G. Neeson and Bruce, and they pointed out, let's see, just about every industry will need less workers to do the same work over time. Automation and other things are replacing the worker. That's why we need to have other protections in place, like guaranteed minimum income, and we need to do it sooner rather than later. We should be lowering the retirement age. Say again?
Oh, I've been pushing guaranteed minimum income now for a while. Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes. We need to do it sooner rather than later, and we should be lowering the retirement age, not increasing it. And Bruce points out the thing is we primarily think of work in economic terms alone. I am retired, but I'm still working for goals I believe in. There are more motivations than only economic.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm gonna say something horrible, and I'm gonna blame our Puritan roots in America, that we
Yes.
lost track of what is good in life, and instead of understanding that economics and working to provide for ourselves is not the end all be all of our lives. So it is fair to only reserve a smaller portion of our lives for work and spend the rest of that working for yourself, being fulfilled. And I think
Work
that's
for
the
things you
goal.
believe in. Yeah.
Yep. So with that, we're going to wrap up, leave it right there, whatever it is. We're just going to end it. And we're
All right.
going to go say goodbye, do your shout outs, and go home. Mark, starting off with you.
If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Press that subscribe button. Help us out. And you can follow us through the week on all the social medias. Just search What Drives Us. We're there, and you can see what's happening in between shows. Back to you, Georgia.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Casey?
You can catch me over at youtube.com at Casey Green. And on Sundays at 1:10 Eastern, we do a show very much like this where we go on until we have decided we've had enough for the week, and we talk about green living, green driving, whatever we think might affect us, like the beginning with the dude saying stuff that people shouldn't be listening to, and so forth. And we hope to see you there.
All right. Normally, I kind of remind you to follow our wonderful, lovely panel, Casey and Mark at the Tesla Life, Casey over at Casey Green on YouTube. But they're going to have to do it themselves. Tough titties. I have things that I want to ask you, the audience. So, Russell left us the keys. We can do whatever we want. We're like spoiled and shit. So, I was wondering, what would you like us to talk about? If you have a specific question that you think the panel should take a look at, got a car question for Mark and Paul, Casey, ask it. Shoot us an email. Go on ahead, hit us up on the Twitters and say, hey, I got this burning question that no one seems to have touched on. And let's see if we can discuss it. Give us something to talk about next week and the week after that, because you're going to have our lovely faces for 2 more shows. And then Russell comes back and we all lock down and become sensible, normal, sane people again. Or so we say.
Maybe.
But if he pays us. He didn't bring us any cake either.
No.
I'm
Cheap.
still waiting on
Okay.
that cake voucher.
We're still waiting for the cake. All right. But thank you so much for joining us today, March 25th, 24th. And you know what? I'd like to thank all of you guys out there for hanging out with us.
It's May.
Whatever. Who cares? It's the same damn month. It's been May. It's been March something.
It hasn't been March for 2 months.
It's been March 2020 for like 17,000 days. It's still
You're
March.
really confusing people, Georgia.
Finally, we're all on the same confused page that I've been on since we got
I
locked
do that
down.
sometimes. I leave the wrong day in the bottom of the show. Just keep on going.
So it's May 24th, 2023. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week on Wednesday. I'd like to remind everybody, thanks to Michael Menron for our theme music. Go on ahead over to Bandcamp. Support him by buying something. Give that man a shout out, and tune in next week and find out what drives us. Go on, Casey. Bye, everybody.